Good evening. Good evening, welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is the Marion City Council meeting for Thursday, February 19, 2026. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bismarck?
Here.
Mr. Edelman?
Here.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mayor Bob.
Present.
Mr. Brandt?
Here.
Ms. Metzger? Here. Mr. Harper?
Here. Thank you. This time we have a moment of silence. Thank you. First item on the agenda this evening is a public forum. There are two public forums in our meetings. There's one at the end of the meeting for any topic. The first one at the beginning of the meeting is for any topic that is on the agenda, but is not associated with a public hearing. If anyone is here to address the council on a topic that's part of a public hearing, there will be time to speak during that public hearing. I'd like to review the rules of procedure for speaking in the public forum. Anyone wishing to address the council should fill out the yellow card at the table at the entrance and hand it to the clerk before you speak. Please do not approach the dais where the council is sitting. If you have any handouts, please submit them to the clerk for distribution to the council. Please step up to the podium, speak into the microphone as the meetings are recorded. Please state your name and address. Everyone will be provided 5 minutes to make their comments. Please do not engage in any conduct or speech that is immediately threatening to any person, which incites violence or which is obscene. Please do not make disparaging remarks regarding any individual person and keep your comments to the topic at hand. Please avoid repeating comments made by prior speakers. Please do not engage in conduct that disrupts the orderly progress of the meeting or engage in speech or conduct which interferes with other people's ability to participate in the meeting. Failure to adhere to the guidelines or engaging in any disruptive speech or behavior will, after a warning, result in removal from the meeting. We appreciate everyone's cooperation in adhering to these rules. So the first public forum is now open, which is again a time that is set aside for comments from members of the public on any topic that is on the agenda, but not part of a public hearing. Anyone's here to address council regarding one of those items, please come forward.
Miss Cheryl Baranowski, this would be where you to. It was for the speed on that item, right? But, Mayor and members of the council, I was actually here 2 weeks ago, and you, denied my initial petition, but you came back and provided a much better solution. And I just wanted to thank you for, doing the research and finding that our whole subdivision had no traffic, speed limit signs, and you're gonna come in and fix it at the entrances, and I just wanted to thank you for doing a better job than that was proposed. That's it. Thank you.
Appreciate you taking the time to address that. Anyone else? Please come forward.
Richard, to speak on the ordinance for bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if it's on the agenda, this would be the time
Okay.
to address it, unless it's part of the public hearing, so.
Okay, I'm good.
So, yeah, please go ahead.
37 years we've been stuff. I just have a quick question on it's on the shared path bicycle speed limit. And I got a question, was what problem is what is the 50-mile-an-hour speed limit trying to solve? What issue are we trying to resolve? I mean, I come from the private sector. And in order to expend human or physical capital, there's gotta be a benefit. You know, we're trying to solve a problem, not just add more regulations and legislation. So
Okay, so,
I can't ask a question.
well, you can ask, you're welcome to ask a question. These public forums are for you to share your opinion or
Okay.
thoughts with us. It's not a time to engage in back and forth dialogue, but we certainly would be happy to have the staff talk to you afterwards and answer that question if they can. Otherwise, we are all available to meet with you at any point in
Sure.
time.
Thank you.
And receive any emails from you, to speak by phone, whatever works for you, to understand your question and the issue of concern, and we follow.
I mean, I can bring up the issues.
Go ahead.
I think the one issue is the trails are doing great. I mean, we're adding more paved trails. There's a lot of cyclists out there. There's an app called Strava that if you cycle a lot like I do, there's tons of people on there. And if you look at certain places in Marion trails, there are thousands of attempts by thousands of riders on a second. It's just a imaginary big trail on the trail. And if I looked at the data on there, I'd say 95% of those segments completions were well over 15 mile an hour, some of them in the 20s. So you've got thousands of users, and it doesn't include anybody that's not on Strava. But now we'll be going, not gonna ride on American trails anymore. I'm gonna go see the rapids, or they'll stay out of American. So I'm not gonna ride sub 15 mile an hour on a trail. And I personally won't either. That's not a workout. It's not fun. So I won't do it unless I have to get somewhere. And that brings up second, it'll push more people on the streets where there's autos. And everybody knows distracted drivers are riding on streets, even for a guy like me that's relatively fearless, it gets kind of scary at times. So I think pushing people off of trails on the streets is bad. I think pushing people out of Marion into Cedar Rapids or anywhere else is bad. Not bad. It's not bad for Cedar Rapids, but I think it's bad for Marion. I think it just, it's, I just read a book by Neil Gorsh, he's an associate justice Supreme Court, and it's called Overruled. And it talks about we just keep adding more and more layers of regulation with no measurable, demonstrable benefit to the public. And it really struck me when I saw this thing coming up. I don't do this, I don't write emails, I don't complain with stuff. I'm like, man, this is it just seems wrong. Now, if the police department has data that says we've had multiple hospitalizations due to bicyclists running into walkers or whatever, killing dogs, whatever it is, then, I'd probably soften the stance, but I couldn't find anything on the police department site for any accidents. Anecdotally, the only thing I know on the trails have been people running into dogs or dogs running into bikes, and 15 to 20 mile an hour won't make any difference. I mean, 50 mile an hour, you're still not gonna have time to react when that dog jumps in your path. So I just would hope that this doesn't pass through. So I guess that's all I know. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
Oh, I didn't say my name. It's Richard Tweet, I live in 5120 Alton, Marion. So thank you.
Anyone else to address council on any topic that is on the agenda but not part of a public hearing? Okay, seeing no one's coming forward, we'll close this part of the meeting and proceed to the consent agenda.
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as follows: items A1 to E3, resolutions 32730, 32740.
Second. We move to seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Items A1 through E3, resolutions 32730 through 32740. Discussion. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. Motion is approved. For the next section, I'll turn over the meeting to the mayor pro tem.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve the consent agenda with Mayor Awasalee's abstention as follows. Item E1, resolution number 32741.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second to approve resolution number 32741, approving Sycamore Heights second edition final plat and memorandum of agreement for property located north of 35th Avenue and east of 44th Street extended Sycamore development. Are there any comments or discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving resolution 32741, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The resolution is approved, and we will meeting back to the mayor.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 26-03, amending chapter 1 to 2 of the Marion Code of Ordinances regarding regulations for electric bikes and scooters, and this is our initial consideration.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 26-03. Amending chapter 122 of the Code of Ordinances regarding regulations for electric bikes and scooters. Discussion? Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. We lost our police chief.
Yeah, that's for me.
Councilmember Jensen, Seth or I might be able to answer questions.
Okay, so here's my question. So I was thinking, they just had, right before I came here, they had a biz mix at Northtown Schwinn. So being in that environment, obviously this topic came up by a handful of different people. So they kind of, again, re-educated me. We talked about this. We got class 1 e-bikes and class 2 e-bikes, and some go 20 mile an hour, some go up to 28. That's fine. But again, they also had a discussion. They say, well, I could go 20 or 30 mile an hour on a regular bike. So the e-bike isn't really the crux of it, in my opinion. It could be on any bike, or you can go over 15 mile an hour. So my question is, how did we come to 15 mile an hour, and should we be considering 20?
We certainly can. That 50 miles per hour came from council direction when we were going through the class. We were talking about 20 miles per hour, potentially being too fast. The essence of the ordinance is really about safety. So as long as people are being safe on the trails, the police chief is back, so he can certainly answer this, but in our conversations, they're not just pulling people over just to pull people over. The idea is if people are being safe, they're wanting people to be safe and obey pedestrian safety on that aspect. And so that's really the crux of it. It's not necessarily just pulling people over because they're going over 15. It's what are you doing when you come up to pedestrians? What are you doing when you're when you come up to those, essentially those avenues? And so, and that's the concern we see a lot with the e-bikes and scooters is they're not obeying, those, pedestrian, opportunities, or at least when they're encountering pedestrians.
And I agree with that. Seth, I agree with that assessment. And actually part of our another conversation, a follow-up conversation I had there is, as a city, perhaps one thing we need to do, and I didn't have a chance to talk to the chief before we started, but another discussion I had is a recommendation of using an organization like Northtown Schwinn or somebody else to come in and have biking etiquette classes where we could hold those at the library. They would do the etiquette class. I know we have people obviously in the police department who could do that too, but coming from somebody like Northtown Schwinn, I think if we're gonna put something into place here, that has to be part of our plan to have a couple of different classes on biking etiquette. But even with that, I agree, it comes down to etiquette. So to me, it doesn't come down to the 15 or the 20. It comes down to the etiquette. So that's why most of the comments I say, why did you go 15? Why isn't it 20? And so I'm just bringing that back up for conversation because I think it's etiquette. We can work on that aspect of it. And maybe the 15 is a little too low at least certainly on trails, so.
And that is gonna be that is our approach is the etiquette. We'll have follow-up communications. We're also engaging Lynn County Trails Association, Lynn County Area Mountain Bike Association, and we could certainly incorporate the swim group too, for follow-up conversations. How do we, educate, help, engage our community about the trail etiquette?
Your any discussion?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I would add to that, that these are amendments to chapter 122, which will apply to all bikes, not just e-bikes and scooters. It's adding them into the regulations. But because that is the truth, that any bicyclist could engage in for etiquette on the trails, this will apply to everyone.
That answers the question I had. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councilmember Menzer.
Thank you for that. Because I've seen those comments made online. I'm gonna back up for anybody listening new to this conversation as to what problem are we trying to fix. And I think, we need to back up and say there's been, abuse of those types of, they aren't even e-bikes, they're motorized, they're small motorcycles, they're other types of, motorized transportation that are being used on the trail. And there was a sensitive amount of confusion with either people who didn't care or didn't know that certain types are not allowed. What's allowed between an e-bike and scooters that don't require pedals, or types of cycles that don't require pedals to move, they're just engine driven. And that prompted another long discussion on scooters and all the way across the board are what are we doing? We're not the only community that is dealing with this. And I don't mean to sound like the person who's like, you know, get off my yard, but I do walk the trail, and I can't imagine anybody who is cycling when they're on a highway or a road, that every car who came up behind them honked their horn at them. If you're trying to ride your bike and every car coming up behind you is honking their horn or yelling at you, that wouldn't be a little irritating when you're trying to just ride your bike. And I think that we're hearing from people who are walking on the trails, when this comes back to etiquette, and you're walking, you have a dog, and just say, well, it's not gonna matter 15 or 20 miles an hour if you hit somebody's dog. I mean, it matters if it happens. It shouldn't happen once. It shouldn't happen at all. And it's that bike, if I'm riding my bike, I don't want to be going fast enough that type of collision could happen, because who is responsible if there is a collision between a pedestrian and a biker on a trail? It's kind of my, is the bike, well, biker, I mean, a legal question. We not know, it would depend, or.
I guess, can you restate exactly what you're asking?
If an individual or a child, a young child, a dog is hit by someone on a bike on one of our trails, who is responsible for that collision? Who is legally responsible for that collision?
So anyone could be named in the suit. To be very clear, we could be named in that suit. However, we have liability under the state code. So as long as our trails are in proper order and so long as we have posted these rules, then we would most likely be dismissed from that lawsuit. As far as liability, that's gonna be really difficult. It would depend, it would depend on the fact. So if they were able to show some sort of recklessness on the part of the bicyclist, then that's probably where liability would end up. But having these clear-cut rules would help with that, because that would help establish what is the expected etiquette on the trails.
And I think I mean, nobody wants people to go elsewhere. People want to be out enjoying our trails. And there's a big difference between a young family on the trails and the kids are biking and there's, you know, trying to have a safe space so they're not on the road. But I also don't think of our trails as being a freeway of riding fast. And maybe I'm wrong. But I think when you ask what problem we're trying to solve, is we are hearing from residents who are getting buzzed by on the trails. They've seen types of motorized vehicles on the trails that aren't supposed to be there. There are people that aren't using it, trying to walk because of those trails, of that happening, and trying to find a harmonious way that we can all enjoy that safely is probably
a question that isn't gonna be solved right away, but we're trying to make progress towards something and being fluid and adjusting as we need to. So I think we've mentioned in the past, this is a work in progress. We know it's not gonna solve all the problems. But we have to start somewhere.
Yeah, it's not beyond being adjusted or tweaked. One thing else needs to be done, but, okay, so, Councilmember Musliman, and then back to Councilmember Harlow.
Thank you. Someone who rides his bike on the trails, I'm definitely regularly riding over 15 miles per hour too. I think, we talked about last time, bringing back the, bicycle police program, and I think if you have an ordinance that limits the miles per hour versus not, I think having the police officers more regularly on the trails still accomplishes the same goal. I mean, if we're talking about etiquette, then, it's pretty obvious when someone's not doing good trail etiquette, if we have a police officer out there anyways, it's like, hey, hold on 1 second, like, catch on the bike, slow down, like, even if we don't have a speed limit, it's like, you're going pretty fast, just to let you know, like, there's a lot of people on this trail, just having an etiquette, please. I think it's more of an education and communication out piece than putting an ordinance in place. So, since we're kind of voting on this specific ordinance and this specific mile per hour, I'm a no on this, but, for those reasons, I think I agree that there needs to be education, and but if we're gonna have police officers out there potentially anyways, I think we can solve the problem without stopping like a law onto it with the speed.
Councilmember Harper.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This having an upper speed limit is almost a foreign concept to me, because I've had people ask me if I shouldn't actually have a slow moving vehicle sign on the back of the bike. But seriously, two important points, and the speaker earlier brought up, I think, the notion of what's the injury data. Do we have any visibility from our hospitals about injury data that would inform us at all? I'm curious if the medical community even tracks that. But I also note that there is a House Study Bill 637 that is going through the State House. I'm not sure of its status, but it does put some restrictions relative to, I think it's mostly on-road, but I don't know if there's some subsections to that also then apply to e-scooters and trail utilization. I like bring that up is that this is a matter that's also at the State House, and it's not just a local concern, probably driven by the same sort of the similar set of inputs that we're reacting to. I think it's just important to note for everybody, this is an ordinance change, and so tonight's consideration is our initial consideration, and it goes through 2 more additional readings. And so in that process, and correct me if I'm wrong, council, but we can tweak and adjust this ordinance as necessary with additional information that we might find, correct?
We have the opportunity to change it at any point, but if we make a substantial change, then it does start over with the first reading.
Okay. So our consideration tonight is not the final.
Absolutely not. And even after it's passed, we always have the opportunity after we come back at, say, our 6-month check-in or whenever we come back with that information, we always have the option to amend in response to how we're finding the numbers play out.
Yeah, so I think it would be useful for, that we make an outreach and get some, if there's any injury data that's informative to us, to at least have awareness of that. And I also think maybe to understand better what's going through the State House would be also informative as we go through this.
Your question then, popped into my mind when the speaker addressed this topic is, what do the neighboring communities have? Do they have any limits in the county?
So this was actually a huge topic on the Iowa Municipal Attorneys Association listserv last week. And because people were asking for examples, and most communities are separating e-bikes and e-scooters, e-skateboards from other bikes, and they are either they're doing one of two things. They're either regulating based on that class division that is set forth in the state code, which essentially is what we're doing by limiting the speed limit. You wouldn't be able to ride the class 3 unless you're going under that speed limit anyway. Or they're just putting basic ride this safely type language in their code.
So, but our metro communities that share this trail system, are they working on similar ordinances, or are they fine without it, or do they have anything in place?
They do, Seth can look at that, and I believe they are all using the class. Cedar Rapids and the county are both going based on the class of E5, so theirs will be a 20-mile-per-hour limit.
20 miles. Okay, then I know we do try and where it makes sense to be consistent with the region and what other neighboring communities are doing in the right circumstances, so that we're consistent. And this is a regional network. So that's just one consideration. I would understand not having a limit if these were just bike trails. But these are shared use trails by pedestrians and bicyclists, and if that was, if we regulate the speed limits in the on the streets where pedestrians might be in conflict with drivers of motorized vehicles. So I that to me, you know, it makes it a little bit different than just if it was a bike trail. It might not be as concerning, but you do have pedestrians on these trails, and we want everyone to be able to use them safely and enjoy them. Okay, any other discussion? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, just pick up on what neighboring communities are doing. Kim, I think we had some level of discussion at the Metropolitan Planning Organization Policy Committee or Policy Board on this very topic. I forget where that left off. But I think if we can acquire any kind of injury related data and coupled up with what we can learn about what's going through the State House, I think one other data point that would be useful on second consideration is, or final consideration is, where did we leave it with the NPO? And it could, because there was some energy around this topic at that time.
For the most part, when we talked about it at the NPL level, they were really looking to do it, you know, to have it regional. That what one community, the other was doing as well. So the conversation was really more towards that 20 miles per hour. And just, you know, following those regulations throughout, but we really we knew we were doing something here at this level, and then it just was kind of put on hold, based on what we were gonna do here.
Good. Thank you.
Any other discussion? So as was stated, this is the first consideration. There are two more considerations. For the next work session, I would ask the staff to flag this so that we can have a good discussion about it in a work session environment, so we can ask more questions and hopefully there'll be more information to share with them. But for now, we'll go ahead and vote on the first reading. All those in favor of approving ordinance number 26-03, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no.
No.
Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Ruskin,
No.
Mr. Uniman,
No.
Mr. Jensen,
No,
Mayor Alabasli,
Yes?
Mr. Grant,
Yes.
Ms. Manson. Yes. Mr. Harper.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion is approved for the first reading.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 26-2, amending chapter 218 of the Mayor's Code of Ordinances relating to noise exemption. This is disallowated. Second consideration.
second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the second consideration of ordinance number 26-02. Amending chapter 218 of the Code of Ordinances relating to noise exemptions. Discussion. Okay, all those in favor of approving the second consideration of ordinance number 26-02, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. The motion is approved.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 32742, approving installation of a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit sign northbound on Linden Lane, north of Tower Terrace Road, and southwest bound on Gemstone Road, south of Woodmore Road.
Second. Been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 32742. Approving the installation of a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit sign northbound on Linden Lane, north of Tower Terrace Road, and southwest bound on Gemstone Road, south of Woodmore Road. Discussion. Okay, all those in favor of approving resolution number 32742, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. The motion is approved. Next item is a public comment period on the proposed Albert Road Extension project and the acquisition of real property from John and Carrie Dooley. Can we please have our presentation before we have the public comments? Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. So, we have two slides here to kind of show the boundary that we're talking about. So the road that you're seeing here going east-west or right-left is Boyson Road. The Dooley property is this one here that you see. The right-of-way that's been established by our third-party surveyor is the R/W that you see there, the darker line. The dashed line is the temporary construction easement. It's being asked for as part of this process. And as we go to the east, this is the Alberta Road, new Alberta Road to the south that's built as part of the Stoneman development. And then the old portion of that's kind of gravel at this point that just dead ends just in that. Again, you can see the permanent easement then, or the permanent right of way we're taking is the triangle piece in the corner. And then again, the dash line is the temporary easement that's being requested just to give some bearing on that. So you can see there are some shrubs and trees that are within the existing right of way that are being taken down as part of that project.
So just to add a little background to this from the legal perspective, staff first met with the property owners in January of 2024. After that, the city engaged a right-of-way consultant to do the acquisitions for this project. That got delayed due to the environmental study issues. So the packets were sent out in April of 2025. And the final letter, the final notice and notice of this hearing were sent out just in the beginning of this month. During the time between April 2025 and today, there have been at least 17 contacts with the property owners, including one on-site meeting in which the city had engaged a third-party surveyor to come out because the biggest issue in this is a property line dispute. There's dispute with the property owner as to whether or not what we have marked up there as the property line is the true property line. The property owner believes that some of that right of way is actually their property. However, our third-party contractor our third-party surveyor, not a right-of-way consultant, did do the survey and showed the property line to be where it shows on this exhibit. In addition, the property owner supplied their abstract and the surveyor checked what they did for their survey against the meets and bounds description in the plat and found that it supported what our survey showed for the property line. So the property owners have provided some evidence based on the plantings, based on mile markers or some sort of markers for the street. In addition, there was a shed or a barn or garage built in that right of way. However, those are just encroachments on city property. That happens all the time. What legally establishes where the boundary is the survey and the meets and bounds description, which show what we have up here. At the time that I drafted the memo for this, I was unaware that, the property owner had reached out to our consultants regarding our final offer, so I just wanted to make that correction from the packet. We have had some conversation this week, there have been some questions asked, and, answers have been sent to those. Additionally, we did make a settlement, an administrative settlement offer this week, which we've not received a definitive answer to. Fair market value for this property was calculated the same way that we did for the other properties in this project. It was used in an alternative method, which is acceptable under both the Iowa DOT and the Federal Highway Administration rules for our grant. And that was done by our consultant, that was not done by city staff, so that there's no conflict there. But again, the biggest obstacle is really that property line dispute. And the administrative settlement offer was made, the basis for that offer is the consideration of, although those plantings are in the right of way of the city property, they are losing some screening to their house, so we offered an administrative settlement to help reduce that should they choose to make some plantings on their own property.
And the property owners are here
Yeah,
today.
is that the presentation?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. At this time, the public comment period is open. If anyone is here to address the council on this matter, please come forward. Thank you.
Hi there, good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is John Newley, my wife Carrie, and I are the property owners at 220 Boyson Road. I just want to make a few clear points tonight. We have been engaging in good faith. We've been working with the city throughout this process with Todd Mulich, the city mediator. We're not refusing to talk. We're asking for clarity and fairness before condemnation is authorized. There is a legitimate boundary dispute. We do not agree with the city's asserted right-of-way line. This is an older property. It's 130 years old, with historic boundary indicators. A historic foundation is visible in aerial photographs for 100 years. It's not a shack, it's a large barn. There's physical monument evidence, there's large concrete monuments that are 100 years old, that are where we assert the property line to be. There's a mature shrub and tree line that's existed for decades. These indicators suggest the boundary may differ from what is currently shown on the acquisition plat. We have not been provided with any recorded documentation showing that this portion of our property was ever formally dedicated, acquired, or condemned as public right of way. We believe this deserves additional review before condemnation authority is granted. Compensation and negotiation concerns. The proposed compensation only applies to what the city considers outside of the right of way. It does not meaningfully address our 80 lilac bushes and 15 mature trees that make up our privacy buffer. Does not address damages to our property by adding a busy road and intersection. We do not believe that the offer reflects full and fair market impact. We submitted a counter proposal in good faith. Counter proposal was rejected outright. We have not had the opportunity to speak directly with city council or the city's legal counsel before tonight. We've been consulting with experts and we've been speaking with survey professionals and legal counsel. We're gathering historic documentation and road establishment records. This is not a simple disagreement. It's a technical boundary issue. We need more time. We're not been given sufficient time to obtain original road establishment documents, review historical plats, work with experts, complete an informed counter proposal. A brief timeline, it falls pretty closely in what they just stated here. We received paperwork in May. I asked for the property line to be staked in July. I met with the engineer and surveyor on August 27th. I expressed my concerns around the property line. I was asked to send counter proposal, which I did on December 3rd. I received a letter back on February 6th saying they had 1 week to answer, but I was on my way out of town for a work trip, and now we're here. At no point in this whole process was I given any sort of timelines, you need to have this by this date or anything, until the final letter that just arrived a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So we respectfully request additional time before moving on into condemnation proceedings. We're asking for transparency, fair evaluation, proper boundary determination, time to resolve legitimate technical questions. Condemnation should be the last step, not the next step. Thank you for your time. Just, there any questions for me, or I don't know how this works?
Does anyone have a question? For Karen. All right, go ahead, Karen. Oh,
No, did somebody have a question for me?
oh, you have a question for Karen. Okay.
Let me ask it now.
Can I just make one more statement too?
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're familiar with the property, it's 220 Boyson Road. It has a giant white barn on it, a giant yellow farmhouse. It's historic. It was owned by the Bowman family from the 1880 to the 1930s. From the 1930s to the 1970s, it was owned by the Boyson family. That property predates everything around it. You know, at one point, the Bowman family owned basically everything from where we're at to over to Sea Avenue, 600 acres around. The property was never officially plotted. There are, you know, property marker lines on the boundary of the property of Boyson. So that's where, again, we have a lot of dispute here. It's a pretty gray line, in my opinion.
Just one quick question.
Yep.
You asked for more time. With the additional time, what is it that you do?
I mean, I assume once you go to condemnation that there is a clock ticking here, but I'm working with an expert on, right-of-way law, and I would like more time to make my case. I don't believe the property line is correct, and there's about an 8-foot difference between where I believe the property line to be and where it's been marked. So I'm trying to make my case that we need to be I understand this road project is happening, so I don't want to get steamrolled.
It's about the compensation.
It's about the compensation. I don't favor the compensation. I mean, if I had my choice, the road project would go away, but
Sure.
if that's not gonna happen, then I feel like I should be justly compensated.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Anyone else address council on this matter? Please come forward. Okay, seeing no one is coming forward, we will close the public comment section. And proceed to the resolution.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 32743, authorizing acquisition of real property for public improvement purposes and to authorize the acquisition necessary property interest from the property owner for the Albernet Road Extension Phase 1 project by gift, negotiation, or eminent domain.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve resolution number 32743. Authorizing the acquisition of real property for public improvement purposes. And authorizing the acquisition of necessary property interests from the property owners. For the Albernet Road Extension Phase 1 project. Okay, now discussion. Go ahead, Steve.
So I've got 2 questions, Karen. So Mr. Dooley is bringing up a concern about boundaries. I thought I understood from your comments that the boundaries had been agreed to. His comments seem to indicate otherwise.
No, he's still disputing the boundary. However, we are quite confident in our assessment of where those boundaries are based on the fact that that's what we hired a third-party surveyor to determine. And they also examined the meets and bounds description in the abstract as well as the plat. The plat was recorded in 1988. So the current owners would have been on notice where those boundaries were per the plat at the time they purchased the home.
So if Mr. Dooley is still concerned about a disagreement on the boundaries. I mean, how much more time, we've been obviously been talking about that aspect for a number of months. So if he wants more time, I mean, how much more time is reasonable for him to come to a conclusion on whether he agrees with the city's assessment or And I'm assuming he's been working on this for a while as well, so. I don't know who's gonna answer that one, but if he's asking for more time, and we've been working on this aspect for a number of months. Does he want for 2 weeks, 2 months, or what, I mean, how much time is he needing for resolving this aspect?
I don't know that any particular time request has been made, but we are running up against grant deadlines, so we really do need to get the acquisitions completed so that the project can be let in the early summer months.
My second question is, can you tell us what the city's offer is and what his kind of offer is as well?
Let me pull that up. The current fair market value offer is $4,130. That's $810 for the permanent acquisition, which was that small triangle, and $3,320 for the temporary easements. We made an additional administrative settlement offer of $2,000 to make up for some of the loss of that screening. All of those, we would argue that those are plantings that are on our property. We do understand that the loss of mature plantings is detrimental.
And what's his counter offer? So our total is somewhere just under 10,000.
Yes,
6,000. Just over 6,000, maybe.
I would have to look. I don't have that in front of me. Right at me.
So Karen, did I understand that we had 4130, 2,000 and then 3,000 and something as well? Those three numbers?
It's two numbers. The total of our offer is the $4,130 of fair market value plus 2,000. So our total offer at this moment is
Oh,
$6,100.
that's our total, great, thank you.
Yes, their counter offer.
Want me to say it?
Sure, if you have it convenient, I don't have it in front of me.
I would actually to come back to the microphone.
Sure.
Thank you.
Our counter offer was 50,000,
50,000,
yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I do have a written proposal that I could give you copies of if you want to look at it.
Thank you. Do you have anything else, Steve? No. Councilmember, yeah, none. Okay, so, yeah, Councilmember Parker.
Yes, I'm looking at the agenda memo. I would just like to ask, city engineer, just for my clarity to, I don't know if it's possible to show on a map, the specific location of the property that is in question. Is it all along Boyson Road?
Yeah, so it's just on the north side of Boyson. It would be on the west side of the future Elbernet Road extended north. That gives enough bearing.
Okay, so on the old Elbernet Road, the shortcut drive, is there anything under contention there?
So that's a future project when we extend it to the north. So we were only doing the improvements at Boyson and south at this time.
Okay, and then in terms of timeline, where are we at in terms of critical milestones that need to be met?
Currently, the DOT has a letting in July. They have to have the plans submitted 2 months prior, so we either have to have this accomplished, everything signed and dotted, or we have to have a condemnation hearing set 2 months prior to that.
Okay, so that would be May 1st.
That's submitted to them, yeah, so I gotta take another month off that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so. The only permanent acquisition is the triangle,
Correct.
but if the boundary. Dispute is resolved in favor of the owners, in favor of what they say is the boundary, is that then involve us acquiring land along Boyson.
That I will defer to the city engineer. I believe it's still temporary easement.
Okay, so we're still talking about temporary easement that then when we're finished with the project, we no longer have any access to.
Right, so the only,
The only thing that is being changed along Boyson permanently is the vegetation. Or the triangle is what we're acquiring. from-
yeah, so this small triangle here is the only portion that we are acquiring in fee title. Everything else is just a temporary construction easement, meaning that our contractors have right to go on it to do the grading that's needed to make it grade and blend better. And then the property goes back to the property owner, so it's only a temporary impediment.
Thanks. I'll ask the city attorney to clarify this though, but isn't that if the dispute is really, it's just about compensation and what are we compensating for and making sure that it's what the law requires, fair and just compensation for what we're taking for public purposes. That's all part of the process of condemnation, right? That would be part of it. Each side has to prove what it is that they're arguing in terms of the value of the real estate, and that where the boundary is comes into that discussion. Any diminution of value based on the vegetation comes into the discussion. All that is part of the condemnation hearing process, right?
Correct. That's the only question that the condemnation commission determines is what's the appropriate value for.
Right, but to determine the appropriate value, they have to know exactly what it is we're acquiring.
Yes,
And where the boundary actually is. So at some point, someone's gonna have to make that decision through that process. This is, a determinative decision of this is where the boundary is.
correct.
So it's all part of that process.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to bring that out and make sure everyone's clear on that.
And if council directs, I could certainly do a short delay with one other property that we're still working on. If council so directed, I could hold off on filing the petition for a short time. And still get the condemnation hearing set.
I certainly would favor that. But I don't know if anybody else, but I'm just, so that we go.
Yeah. I have some questions.
Okay, go ahead.
So that conversation that you just had, talking about the property line dispute. Does the condemnation board, is that who makes the decision on where the property line actually is, or is that, how does that, who makes that decision?
They would take into consideration what the valuation of the taking is. So they would take a look at it and say, you're saying you're only taking this much property, but based on these exhibits, we believe it's this much, and here's what you would need to pay to them. So they wouldn't necessarily make a final determination, like that would be legally binding as to where the property line is so much as this is where the taking is occurring. Because in order to establish a different boundary that would be binding, we would need to have that documented. And this decision does get recorded, but I don't know that they would make a final statement as to where the boundaries.
A final decision of where the boundary is, how do they decide?
Yeah, that's right.
Valuation.
They would make their determination, but it would still be something that we would need. We would probably need to have that determined by the district court for a final decision.
I see.
So my guess would be that if they decide either for or against a certain way, one party or the other may choose to appeal that.
Right, so through the appeal process, it would be decided.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So Mayor, it's not, I think another comment Mr. Dooley made is he was not aware of a deadline by the city. He just had some recent communication, so it sounds like we got some additional time in which we need to maybe move this to a condemnation phase. So I would make a motion to table, resolution number 32743.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Councilmember Jensen, seconded by Councilmember Harper. the table resolution number 32743. Discussion. Are we tabling it till the next meeting?
That would be my request. I do have additional, information that I can provide to council that shows that they were aware that we were going to be pursuing condemnation through our consultant as early as October of last year. We let the consultant know that we were going to be sending out 5 visits. We delayed it that time because they had requested additional time to prepare a counter proposal.
Okay. So is that okay if it's, if the amendment is until the next meeting,
Or such time as they determine is reasonable, it's fine, okay. Is everybody with that?
okay. Any other discussion on the amendment? I'm sorry, on the motion to table. Okay, we're voting on the motion to table resolution 32743. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say no. Okay, the motion is approved. Next item is a public hearing on the 2026 major pavement patching project. We have a presentation.
Yes, Your Honor. So this is our 2026 major pavement patching program. So this is on 10th Street from Indian Creek Road to 500 feet north of Tower Terrace Road, 29th Avenue, 10th Street to Indian Creek Road, and 35th Street from Industrial Avenue to 3rd Avenue. As a part of that, we did receive bids. The low bid came in from Midwest Concrete at $1,198,112.93, 95.6% engineer's estimate. Has an early start date of 6/8/26 and a late start date of 7/3/26. Just means they can start anytime in between those time periods. As a completion of 70 working days, a milestone deadline of 8/14/26. That has to do with the Linn-Mar School District area, and then there are liquidated damages of $1,000 per day in liquidated damages. So we are recommending proceeding with the project and bids. Okay.
Okay. The public hearing is now open. If anyone's here to address council on this measure, please come forward. Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Proceed to the motion.
Mayor, I move,
Sorry, did we receive any comments outside this meeting?
we've met.
Okay, note that for the record, please.
Mayor, I move to approve project calendar regarding the 2026 major pavement patching project as follows. Resolution 32744 to 32745.
Second. The moved and seconded to approve the project calendar for the 2026 major pavement patching project. Resolutions 32744 through 32745. Discussion. Go ahead.
Mike, can you show the, or whoever's running it, show the bids? Midwest Concrete, what bid? Is that who did it last year, the 20 or 6th Avenue and 35th, yes.
No, I believe Cedar Falls, right?
And then can you tell me what, I had a conversation with Jake about the last few years of the patching program. And I do not remember the technical terms he told me. There were the 2 different types that have been done last year. They kind of just did little sections versus full depth portions. What's the plan for this year?
Combination thereof.
Okay, so kind of both, depending on the.
So again, these are, if you remember the curve of the life of pavement, hitting it sooner and making those repairs now versus waiting for it to deteriorate. So we're spending less money now to make the pavement last longer rather than waiting for it to fall apart more and then making changes.
Right. Fully on board, I was just questioning because conversation with him about this stuff, so. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, just out of curiosity, as part of this work scope, will they also be looking for any, I'm gonna say subsurface imperfections that may impact, that negatively impact this overall timeline? And I'm just thinking about proximity to school and school-related traffic. But if they find something, then we make a scope amendment and address it at that point.
So I don't have the full bid tab pull up in front of me, but typically we have contingency items for any other sub-base should we need it when we pull out that pavement. To put underneath it to keep the project moving, because we don't have time to let it dry.
Right. And so the targeted completion date is given what?
So they have to start sometime between 6/8/26 and 7/3/26, and they have 70 working days. So working days are Monday through Friday, where they can work on the controlling operation. So if paving concrete is the controlling operation and it's raining, or it's too hot to pour the pavement, or too cold to pour the pavement, which hopefully that does not happen during this time frame, then they would not be charged for those days. If, say, removals was the controlling operation, they can do that in the rain.
Thank you.
Any other discussion, questions for Mike? All those in favor of approving the project calendar for the 2026 pavement patching project, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved. The next item is a public hearing on the 2026 CIPP rehabilitation project. We have a presentation, Mike,
Yes.
for everyone's benefit. Could you please explain what CIPP is?
Yes, cured in place, so basically our slip lining, as you guys probably know, but it's the cured in place pipe inside the sanitary sewer. So this is an important project, as you know, with the future 2080 that's gonna come before city council. By preventing that ionized infiltration into our sanitary sewer, we're keeping the clean water out, so we're not paying to take it to Cedar Rapids to then treat the clean water, so we're keeping the dirty water in the pipe and keeping the clean water out. So this is lining those old clay lines where they might have a joint every 2 to 3 feet, to keep that separation in there. It is in several locations in the south part of the town, highlighted here in red. So we are recommended that we move forward with this project.
Okay. Thank you. At this time, the public hearing is open. If anyone is here to address council on this measure, please come forward. While we're waiting, we'll ask the clerk if any comments were received outside the meeting.
I have not received any.
Thank you. Please note that for the record. Anyone here to address council on this matter? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and proceed to the motion.
Yes, Your Honor, I move to approve project calendar regarding the 2026 CIPP rehabilitation project as follows. Resolutions 32746 through 32747.
Second,
Moved and seconded to approve the project calendar for the 2026 CIPP rehabilitation project, including resolutions 32746 and 32747. Discussion, questions for Mike? Okay, all those in favor of approving the project calendar for 2026 CIPP rehabilitation project, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion is approved.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 32748, approving a request to defer sidewalk located at 3130 and 3196 Third Avenue, Marion, Iowa. This is John Washington.
Sorry. It has been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 32748. Approving the request to defer the sidewalk located at 30 to 3196 Third Avenue. Discussion.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is, I think, an important item. I unfortunately missed, when I had to leave, work session Tuesday. So as I understand it, and I didn't get a chance to drive by there, there's construction underway, in that area, correct?
That is correct. They do have a building permit that's going through the review process. I don't think it's been issued yet for one of the 2-unit townhomes, and they've been able to go ahead to run the utilities on, that building. So yes, construction is in progress.
Okay, that's an important, feature, just, and again, maybe I missed the detail, how many different buildings are going in on that property?
So it would be 3 additional buildings. The existing house would remain. That existing accessory structure would be removed as part of phase 2. Phase 1 would include 1 3-unit townhome and 1 2-unit townhome. And then where that detached garage sits, it would be a 1 2-unit townhome. So a total of 7 additional units on the property.
And the fronts of that construction would face, south to Third Avenue, so all of the front entries.
Correct.
Okay, right, thanks.
Go ahead, Councilmember Benson.
Do we have any idea for the deferral? Why? Or like, is it a year from now? Is it years from now? And why not put it in when you're doing the constructions? You don't have to be worrying about digging up landscape that might have already been done or grass and other things.
Yeah, within the letter requesting the deferral of the installation for sidewalk, it was mentioned that there's no current sidewalk on Third Avenue today. The property owner did send me an email this afternoon saying that he is planning on retaining the property. It was as rental, so I know that's one concern or question that was brought up to, from council on Tuesday. It would remain as the property owner. In that letter of request, he is aware that if this does get approved, that the council does have that authority to pass a resolution of necessity to require that sidewalk to go in. But there is no timeline that he was thinking of. It's just, since there is no existing sidewalk that would be tied onto at the moment, that they were hoping to defer it.
Okay, so based on our new sidewalk policy for gaps, would this be impacted with I understand going east because it is industrial, but I have talked to a few of the neighbors in that area who are frustrated that there are no sidewalks and walk in those neighborhoods and have to be continually jumping either no crosswalks or walking on the street. Would our sidewalk policy help at all to finish the sidewalk to 31st with that current house? Because really, if there's sidewalks go in, when we make that happen, and if it's now or I guess I don't understand the difference besides the cost will probably go up. Everything seems to go up in a year, so why not do it now? With the pricing, but I'm the owner, but there's that section, and then there's a section where it would end by that White House on the corner that faces 31st. So you're really one lot from connecting that street to 31st. Correct?
Correct.
Would our sidewalk policy that we just passed, that has to do with gap sidewalks, help to complete that if we required this property owners, they're building the townhomes to put that section in? Would our new policy help us as the city to help that homeowner finish that last block so we actually would have a sidewalk that would run from 31st to the end of these new properties?
So the policy that was just adopted, assuming that that corner house does not have a deferment or agreement, we have not been able to do that research. The city can come in and put that sidewalk in, there would be no cost to the homeowner based on the policy, assuming there's no agreement already established. So then it would tie into the sidewalk, to the west. If that's something that council desired, it would just have to be in the CIP and funded.
Mike, if I can, sorry, but as staff was discussing this in between the work session and today, there would have to be some engineering done or design work to determine the appropriate connection point.
Right,
Right,
whether it's on the north side of Third Avenue to the west or the south side. we'd have to do some engineering to figure out where the best ADA crossing would be for that.
So yeah, so to Councilwoman Mentor, if the council denies this request and directs staff to look into that and incorporate it into the CIP, then yes, that lot would not have to pay for that sidewalk and stuff.
We get the rest of it connected, okay? Because otherwise, if we approve the deferral while we look at this and we find out, okay, wait, that's a tricky corner on the north side of Third. Maybe it needs to run along the Peg Pierce ball diamond property because it's flatter, but we'll get a sidewalk at least on one side of the road. Or maybe, but that gives us some time to look at those options.
Yeah, and so we have brought to council, Richard Murtaugh brought one that was just based on safe routes to school. We are doing more of a comprehensive one that will include all gaps everywhere to help prioritize that. And so with that plan, that may not be the highest priority, but we don't have that prioritization plan done yet.
But it would be part of the plan.
It would be part of the plan to figure out where it falls.
Anyone else?
Yeah, great. So, I'm looking at the, agenda memo and I see how the properties are situated there for, construction. Where would, obviously, the residents of those, townhomes would be parked in their garage and their driveways. What about guests that might be visiting? Where do they? Is there sidewalk, I'm sorry, parking on Third Avenue?
I don't believe there is a parking allowed on Third Avenue. Guests would park in the driveway. Hopefully, the residents are parking in the garage. It does meet our parking regulations as far as residential units. So that was our concern.
Yeah, so where my mind was going on that, these get built, they're occupied, no sidewalk there. And if there were to be, or if there was parking on Third Avenue, but yes, parks perhaps on the south side of Third Avenue would walk and then have to navigate along the street without a sidewalk on the north side to visit a resident. And so, well, I guess it's just not, it's not lost on me then that the fact that there's no on-street parking availability on Third Avenue at least weighs into how I'm thinking about this.
So if the sidewalks differ and all of these townhomes will have driveways onto Third Avenue. So what happens when the sidewalk is gonna be put in later? Does any part of those driveways have to be or to go inside the sidewalks? Or is it incorporated into the driveway?
Yeah, it depends on how the driveway is constructed. We often suggest and recommend that when new driveway is going in, if the sidewalk is deferred, that they at least put in that. Usually we say the 5 foot width because that's where we have the ADA passing. So a lot of times we'll have that flat spot that kind of looks like a sidewalk through a driveway, just no sidewalk.
Is that the case here, or are we requiring that?
That is what I'd say is being shown.
Yeah, I'm struggling with this because it would be inconsistent with our most recent kind of thinking about all this, is that we don't want to defer sidewalks. And we have made people put in sidewalks, or deny deferral requests for sidewalks that aren't tied to any other sidewalk on either side, with the idea that we have to start somewhere and we don't want to just continue creating gaps. And so it just seems inconsistent. So, yeah, I guess my question for Mike is, you said that this would be part of those we have proactive project that is going to take care of all the gaps. So this is only gonna be a very short time period of deferral, or?
So what we will do is we will look at every gap in the city,
Yeah.
and then we will work on prioritizing. So I don't know if that's gonna be in year 5 or year 20,
Okay,
depending on.
so, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
If I can, but just to add that, with the gap analysis that was done, with GIS, Rachel Murtaugh on GIS, taking the state routes to school, and then all the other gaps that we have in the community. So as part of the annual budget process, we've got the annual, allocation of funding towards the sidewalks. So once the council approves that budget, then staff will work on prioritizing those sidewalk gaps to come back to council before we actually start implementing, so that we can get, make sure that we're aligning with what council's priorities are. I think we had some initial priorities based on some initial, grant applications or safe route to school priorities that we have. So we're pretty set on the first round, but the years after that, we've got this process established to make sure that we're systematically addressing those gaps.
I just think that having the sidewalk putting at this time will give incentive to complete it. And I think if it didn't exist, then it's just gonna continue to be the same. So that's just how I feel about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, to echo what you're saying, I think we need to stop approving residential areas that have no pedestrian access. I mean, you've got a lot of it out there, for those parts of the city that have, we're just adding to the problem by approving this project and not having a sidewalk connection. So with that, I would like to direct staff, and hopefully I'll have another member of council that would like to jump on board with me, but direct staff to get this section right here of 31st and 3rd Avenue connected.
But that's not the item I'm looking for right now.
No, it's not, but I'd like to direct session. It was brought up by someone just now saying that council directed staff, so I'd like to direct staff to do that, so hopefully we can get another council member on board with that. But yeah, I don't think deferring is the right thing to do, and get that sidewalk built so that we can connect to the rest of the sidewalks in the city.
Any other discussion? There? Okay, any other discussion? Ready to vote? Okay. All those in favor of approving resolution number 32748, approving the request to defer the sidewalk, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no.
No,
So the noes have it. And the deferral request is denied. Okay. This time we have our second public forum, which is the time to address council by members of the public on any topic. And let's hear to address council, please come forward. Mr. King, yeah.
My name is Steve King, and I thank the Mayor Awasli and members of council for allowing me the opportunity to come up here and speak today. My son Tanner King is a 2010 graduate of Lindmar High School. He went on to receive his BA from the University of Iowa, his master's degree in library and information science from the University of Denver. He's currently employed at Red Rocks Community College in Lakewood, Colorado. While Tanner was home this past December, we were driving to Cedar Rapids when he started pointing out what we call flock cameras. I had no idea what they were, so he spent a lot of time while he was visiting, educating us on the subject. He wondered if Marion had plans to install them, and I had no idea. So yesterday I spoke with the mayor to find out. He informed me that at this point there were presently no plans, which is a relief, because then I can consider myself to be a little proactive tonight. Tanner asked me to share a letter with you from him at tonight's meeting. He says, "Hello, my name is Tanner King. I grew up in Marion, but I'm writing this from Denver, Colorado. I haven't lived in Marion for many years, but I still consider it home and care for it a great deal. I had a great time over the holidays visiting friends and family, and particularly enjoyed what has happened in the Uptown District. One of the other things I enjoyed was the complete lack of flock cameras. These are a type of ALPR, or automatic license plate reader. This name is a bit of a misnomer because this technology can be programmed to recognize more than just license plates. They are up along roadways, capturing data about everyone and everything that passes them, such as a license plate, make and model of vehicle, and other defining characteristics such as dents, scratches, and bumper stickers. All of this information is logged along with time and location where the logging took place. This data is then converted to text and stored in a spreadsheet. With Flock having over 80,000 of these cameras blanketing our country, the end result is a detailed database of the daily habits of most Americans, all under the control of a very shady private company. This information has been regularly accessed by ICE, in spite of the company's claims that individual communities have complete control of the information that has been gathered. A quick Google search will prove that this is not true. There are many examples of Flock being misused. A woman from Texas who went to Illinois for a life-saving abortion was arrested when she returned home because Flock was used to track her movements. There are men with restraining orders against them have gained access to the data and used it to track ex-girlfriends. And peaceful protesters have been tracked after leaving demonstrations. Not only do these cameras provide a tool for potential misuse by government, but they are technically insecure. Recently, a security researcher in Georgia was able to easily hack into one of the 75 Flock cameras in Cedar Rapids to remotely view a man having a mental health crisis. He was then able to use facial recognition software to learn the man's name and employer. KCRT covered the story in December, if you'd like to look into a little bit more. The researcher's name is Ben Jordan, Penn Jordan. And he has a great series of videos that go into depth explaining Flock in an understandable way. And if you want to see a map of where many of these cameras are, the website deflock.me will give you an idea of the alarming scale of the issue. As a local government that hasn't let Flock into its door, you have the opportunity to avoid the toxic political position of allowing AR surveillance into your community. In Denver, when we learned that ICE had been accessing our cameras to track immigrants, our city council voted unanimously to remove them. Our mayor then used a legal loophole to keep them in place. Thank you. To keep them in place. Months later, he is having to quietly backtrack as he finally cancels our contract with Flock. In Marion, you are still in a position to not make this mistake. AR surveillance is completely unregulated and still not understood by the general public. You may be approached sometime soon by someone peddling such products, and I hope that now, during a time where so many troubling things seem to be happening in our country, that you will think twice before handing information about your residents' lives over to rich, powerful, shady country. It would take me much longer than 5 minutes to completely explain this issue to you. So I ask that you please ask the valued member of your community reading this letter, which is me, I suppose, to put you in touch with me if you have questions. As someone who cares a great deal about Marion, I ask you to please continue to keep your town free of this blemish. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else to address council, please come forward. Okay, with that, we will move on to council comments before we adjourn. Start with on my far left. Thank you, Mr. Harper.
Yeah, just, maybe just a comment, because I've been curious about the topic, to the gentleman's, sharing the letter from his son regarding Flock cameras. There is, just for general awareness, there is, some legislation moving through the, State House right now. I think maybe one or two pieces of legislation, that are addressing the utilization of such technology in the state. So that'll be a useful thing to keep an eye on. The final comment that I would make, and I just really say this with kind of my regional collaboration hat on, Ryan and I were participants in the first, solid waste agency, working group to examine the governance, structure of the solid waste agency. And, that process is a very important process to go through. But I do want to just say for the public record, I thought that it was an extremely good session. There was a lot of very good, discussion. And, we have 2 more scheduled meetings that will happen in the next week and a half to 2 weeks. And, I think that the depth of conversation will evolve within those, but it was a good session and I certainly was glad to participate.
Mrs. Manson.
All right, just a note of this is going to parks a little bit in the activity, and I saw the, recent that the rental from the plots is open, it's posted opening. But tied to that is a really special opportunity. I don't know that many people know about, and when I was doing council office hours on Saturday, I was reminded because the Lynn County Master Gardeners were at the library. And Phil was there and we reiterated they will be back in March 14th. They're there from 10 to 2, I believe. And they're there and it's free. It's you're planting your garden, you have questions. We all know this when we have been at our community garden and had the master gardeners with us and different residents will stop by and ask questions. But this is a chance for residents to interact with the master gardeners, ask questions about your own gardens, plants, things that you want to do in that area. They're there for free and they're really anxious to help. So I think with our library having both the seed library, you know, we have the master gardeners there helping to plant. Don't miss out on the opportunity because after that, they're always at our farmers markets, but I think you really get some quality time with them at the library.
Okay.
Last Friday, the mayor and council was invited to the Lynn County High School Black History Month celebration. Councilman Jensen and myself attended the show. I want to commend the kids for the show they put on. They did a great job entertaining us and educating us in terms of what we should know about Black History Month. And I want to give them kudos and encourage them to come on.
Thank you. Michelle. Okay, for my part, yes, thank you, Jake, for attending and representing the council. I had signed up to go, but had spent the prior 3 days in DC for the city, so I needed to catch up on my work. But thank you for going and in the past, that has been a good program. On the topic of Washington DC, we had a delegation of 11 people from the metro area and city engineer and the deputy city manager, and I represented Marion, and really led this group of people who were meeting with our delegation in DC, as well as our state delegation, as well as the Department of Transportation officials about our grant application for Tower Terrace Road. I thought it was probably, we've done this several times, and I thought this was the best meeting we've had with the department, at the highest level that we've been able to reach with the department. So we're optimistic about our application. We need the 3 bridges to complete Tower Terrace Road, and just appreciate all the work that went into planning for that trip. And all of the efforts from all of the communities and the county and the metro area who all were represented. We had 3 mayors there. And that was a worthwhile trip, although it did take time away from our work. I do want to continue thanking our council members for doing the office hours, for the benefit of the public. We have been for, now this is the 11th year, doing office hours weekly at the library and at the farmers markets. So we are very happy to engage with people on their questions, on their issues, to take their ideas, to answer questions we write things down and give them to the staff. And the staff is very responsive and following up with the correct information. It's just a good time for us to meet people and to, listen and to engage with the Marion's residents. That's one of the things I'm most proud of, that this council does, because I don't know that a lot of communities do that, where for 11 years in a row, council members regularly every week, set aside 2 hours to meet with residents. And I just want to again say thank you to the council for continuing to do that. I know it takes time out of our weekends, but it's important. This Saturday, we have the youth council, the mayor's youth council program once a month. I've been doing this this is the 8th year, I believe. We have students from both Winmar and Marion high schools get together once a month. They learn about the city, they learn about our projects, our programs, they learn how the city operates. They do this week, they'll be talking with the water department and touring that, as well as meeting 2 council members, so they get to engage with city leaders, they get to engage with different department heads throughout the year and give their ideas and their input, have their voice heard, but also build some pride in their community, to really learn about what we're doing to make this a great place for them and their families, and hopefully get them to want to return and use their energy and talent to continue moving Marion forward and be our future council and our future leaders. That's really why I started that program, and in the last 2 or 3 years, I'm starting to see some real big progress in terms of these students being very engaged in the program, first of all. Second of all, leaving the program saying, I've learned a lot about my community. I love this community. I want to come back and be part of it. And so, I think this is our last actual program, and the next month will be the graduation for the seniors who are leaving the program. We do have a lot, I want to encourage everyone to think about supporting the Heritage Center. It is the keeper of our historical records. Marion is the oldest established town in Lynn County. And we have a very rich history. And a lot of that history, the photos, are all housed in the Heritage Center. So everyone has an opportunity to be a member of the Historical Society and to support them. And if there are other ways people want to support them, like they're looking for board members, I think it's a worthwhile thing for us to support, as well as the Granger House. We have these 2 historical museums in our culture and entertainment district in our town. It's really an asset for us, and so I would just encourage everyone to find ways to support them, to visit them, and talk to your friends and neighbors about them, so that we can continue to have them existing and enriching our life here in our town. And finally, the State of the City presentation is coming up on March 9th. We already have, what I say, 500 plus people signed up. So it's always a good event to get a feel for what we've worked on, what we've accomplished in the last year, where we're going, when things are coming up. You get a feel for the momentum and the excitement in Marion. I hope anyone that has an opportunity to attend will do so. And with that, we'll see you next time. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you for joining us.